On today's show, we have breaking news. The Ottawa Senators have agreed to terms on a 2-year contract extension with Tyler Kleven.
And we continue our 2025 NHL Draft Rankings with our first Canadian skater.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just head to FanDuel to get started. Today is Monday, June 2nd, and Pilsy, it's been a while since we sat down in the LOSP studio, and boom, breaking news right away.
And maybe Steve Staios listened to last episode, Ross, because I believe we pleaded with him, hey, no more news today on Friday. If you're going to do anything, wait till Monday. And if you're going to do something Monday, let's get it done before 10, 11 o'clock. And steady Stevie Staios hit us with a new contract extension for an RFA.
And it is Tyler Kleven signing a 2-year contract with an annual average value of $1.6 million. Pilsy, who could have seen that coming?
Who could have predicted that coming? I said weeks ago, I believe they're going to go with a 2-year term somewhere between 1.5 and 1.7. So, I mean, I gave myself a narrow window there at 1.6, but I nailed it. So hopefully we can keep predicting what the contracts are going to be so we can figure out this budget for the Ottawa Senators. But I like this deal. Obviously, it's what I was expecting, and I think it's a good deal for Tyler Kleven. I think it's a tidy piece of business for Steve Staios. Now that bottom pair is locked in for the next 2 years, only making, what's that, 2.4 million total?
Give or take.
Yeah, not a math guy. So that's pretty good value. Great job, Steve Staios and staff.
Yeah. And you get the cost certainty there. I came in a little bit higher than I had predicted. And the reason for that being, I figured the Sens, with all the leverage they had, if they wanted to squeeze every nickel and dime out, maybe my mind was still in the last regime. I would just say this is a fair contract for both sides based on the way that Tyler Kleven played in the second half of the season in particular, where he really started to find a rhythm and a groove to his game after a bit of a tough start, especially in November. He was immediately an impact player in the start of his playoff career, and you got to think that confidence will help breathe more success into next season. So really happy for the Kleven family, great people, and really looking forward to seeing how Tyler Kleven doubles down on what was his first full NHL season. I think that gets lost sometimes. He only had a handful of games in each of the last 2 seasons, but after 79 games, 10 points, and a really improved physical element of his game that we knew he had in his toolbox from college and in the American Hockey League. It'll be great to see how Tyler Kleven follows it up in the National Hockey League. And last season, in those 79 games, not only do we share the counting stats, but obviously what his game boils down to is physicality. He had 105 hits, 78 shots on goal as well, and played 14 minutes and 28 seconds. That average time on ice actually went up in the start of his playoff career, went up to almost 1550 in that series against Toronto. He had 16 hits and 8 block shots in 6 games. So tidy piece of business for a homegrown draft pick, second round in the 2020 entry draft. So we're really happy for that, and great to see a little cost certainty as well for Kleven.
Yeah, and I think a 2-year deal was the right play here, Ross. It still leads him into another RFA contract negotiation. I think Tyler Kleven's likely going to be this type of player for the next 2 years. He's not going to be elevated in the lineup. You got Jake Sanderson, you got Thomas Chabot. So 1.6 for a young third pair, left shot, physical shutdown defenseman. I think is great, and that's where he should slot in my opinion, salary wise.
So let us know in the comments how you feel about the deal that Steve Staios has not only signed with Tyler Kleven, but now with Nicholas Matinpalo as well. Not going with the big fish necessarily right away. When we brought up how maybe getting Claude Giroux done first could be the right path to knowing what your certainty is and how much you can nibble around the edges of this roster, or if you want to throw in a big fish this off season. So Tyler Kleven, Nicholas Matinpalo, RFAs have been signed. And now you've got Philip Roos leaving to Sweden. So we've got pulled up, if you're watching on YouTube, all of the unrestricted and restricted free agents. I want to play a little this or that later on in the show. Keep or cut, if you will. But great to see Tyler Kleven get that deal done. And that means that the roster certainty is taking a little more shape as well. We still have to wait and see up front, but on the back end, there's a real world where they could go into next season with the 6 guys they have now. How likely do you think that would be?
Well, I mean, I don't think any of these 6 guys is getting traded, Ross. Could there be an addition to these 6 guys? That's a different question, and I think the answer is yes, but I expect all Sanderson, Zub, Shabbat, Jensen, Kleven, Matinpalo to return to the Ottawa Senators next season.
I will go a step further and say there will be an addition. Elliot Friedman with 32 Thoughts. You might have heard of him over at Sportsnet. He said the teams are engaged in conversations with the Ottawa Senators, with the Sens looking for a right shot defenseman in the NHL right now. Not a prospect. We got a couple of those guys coming, including Carter Yakimchuk, but getting an NHL proven quality right shot defenseman has to be at the top of the program.
Well, and ironically, Ross, the other part of that conversation was Elliot Friedman saying the Ottawa Senators have a surplus of right shot forwards. So you got too many right shot forwards, not enough right shot defensemen. Maybe there's a deal to be done with some of these teams that are looking to bolster their forwards. I mean, you're looking at Claude Giroux, Drake Batherson, Fabian Zetterlund, David Perron. Am I missing any of the right shot forwards there?
Well, for wingers, at least.
Wingers,
I mean,
yes,
you got Michael
wingers.
Amadio's a right shot as well. Adam Gaudette plays center, but he's right shot. Yeah, they've got a lot of right shots up front on this team.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. I still think, Ross, if they're going to make a sizable move, it's going to have to include trading one player from the forward group out of here to not only make space cap-wise, but also on the roster. I think that's what they're going to have to do if they're going to make a splash. If they're just going to make instead of a splash, we'll call it a drip, then I think they can do it without moving someone. But I anticipate Steady Stevie Staios is cooking something up here to have a bigger move for that back end.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a calculated move, but something that will catch the attention of headlines all across the country. I don't think it's going to be, oh man, Ottawa's added, like, let's say David Perron, for example. Like, it's a substantial deal in terms of you're giving $8 million on a 2-year deal last offseason. But that's not a conversation that's going to be happening on the streets out west. Whereas I feel like when Ottawa got Linus Ullmark, it got the hockey world talking. Is kind of how
nothing else going on.
Yeah, nothing. Not Game 7 of the Cup final 5 minutes later. But no, I think Steve Staios has something up his sleeve here.
And Ross, very relatable. You've got a list of chores, to-do list, or you're writing a test in school, and you're like, that looks like it's going to be a tricky, tough answer. I'll circle back to that. Let me get these quick, easy answers or easy chores out of the way so I feel good about myself. So Steve Staios sitting there being like, well, Tyler Kleven, Matinpalo, and Luke Ellenis all done. That's easy. I'm doing great work so far, and you can't blame him for that. But Ross, it is kind of funny looking at Matinpalo and Kleven, and Matinpalo has got to kind of be sitting there being like, this guy's making double what I just signed for. Not that it's that surprising, and I think Matinpalo getting a $100K raise and one-way term is definitely an improvement, but it is kind of crazy when you think about that it's almost double what Matinpalo is making what Kleven just signed for.
Well, you could just say he played almost double the games. right?
Yeah, totally. Yep, that's fair.
And good on Tyler Kleven, too. That was a not mentioned part of this whole thing is Tyler Kleven played 79 games, only missing 3 the entire season. So stick taps all around. I think it's a fair deal. And now Ottawa with just over $15 million in cap space. They still need to sign 4 forwards and a goalie and potentially add more NHL bodies because that would be the minimum roster of 20 players with the 2 goalies as well. On the other side, a Senator prospect is a champion. And then we'll get back to our NHL draft rankings. We are inching ever so close to the first round talent. The Senators hold the 21st overall pick in the 2025 draft, which is less than a month away. The Senators brass is in Buffalo starting today for the week that is the scouting combine. I'm sure there'll be plenty more rumors, and it's the start of what is always a newsworthy month in the off season, really leading past July 1st and free agency. So those conversations are next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing. It's finals time. Pacers, Thunder, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. And Ross, I would mention the Stanley Cup Finals, but I think it's like 3 years from now. So I'm looking at other bets on FanDuel, and this is why I love FanDuel. Check out the novelty tab under NHL. You can place bets on Mitch Marner's next team. The Toronto Maple Leafs and Chicago Blackhawks are the favorite. I predicted the Blackhawks. I put my bet in at plus 430. Or how about Jonathan Taves' next team? Winnipeg and Colorado are the favorites. Winnipeg, your neck of the woods, Ross, plus 210, or Colorado at plus 340. So if you're not looking at the finals, you're looking past that because it feels like forever. There's some fun bets. You can even, we'll touch on it next time, but there's bets on the draft too.
I've got that up right here. Anton Frondel is the leader to go 3rd overall. Feels like 1 and 2 might be slam dunks, maybe, but maybe not. Because Michael Misa is plus 500 to go 3rd overall. I guess that would be, he's likely going to go 2nd. But lots of great intrigue over at FanDuel.
And it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet for new customers. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Today's episode is also brought to you by our great friends over at the Glebe Central Pub. The finals are coming in both the Stanley Cup and the NBA playoffs. And if you're looking for a place that lives and breathes sports, Glebe Central Pub is that spot. It's right in the heart of the Glebe, just steps from Lansdowne. It's the perfect place to catch every game, every night, with great food and great drinks and even better company. But the GCP is about more than just catching the big game. There's something happening almost every day of the week to appeal to every taste. How about wing night every Monday? Pilsy, what kind of wings are you always into?
Look, I know it's a boring answer, but I love me some classic buffalo wings. That hot sauce and butter put on a chicken wing is pure perfection.
It's a classic for a reason, just like trivia night is at the GCP. It happens every Tuesday. Bring your crew and put your knowledge to the test. Wednesday, it's open mic night, whether you play, sing, or just want to kick back and listen. It's a great way to celebrate the middle of the week. Thursdays, cheap tacos. And of course, Saturday, live music, no cover ever. Hey, the CFL season is coming, and the Glebe Central Pub is your place to be when things kick off at Lansdowne. So whether it's hockey, live music, or just a night out, because make Glebe Central Pub your home base, because as you know, the vibes are free at the GCP. All right, Pilsy. So Tyler Kleven is an Ottawa Senator for at least the next 2 seasons. Kleven will also have 2 more seasons of RFA, restricted free agent eligibility, before he can become an unrestricted free agent in 2029. So they do keep some control of the asset after this deal.
And that's why I mentioned 2-year deal is good, Ross. And just an update, Puckpedia reporting the contract year by year, 2 years. My prediction in May was somewhere between 1.5 and 1.7. Well, I should have been a little more clear on that. What I meant to say was the first year is going to be 1.5 and the second year is going to be 1.7. That worked out nicely for me. It doesn't always work out that great, Ross, but this is a nice feather in my cap here.
Hey, we celebrate the wins where we can get them. The quote from Steve Staios in the official press release this morning is, Tyler continued to elevate his game throughout his first NHL season, which was a good sign. We expect his game will continue to develop. Yeah, so do we, Steve. You know who else's game is developing right now? 4th round pick in last year's draft, Blake Montgomery. Congratulations are in order.
Yes.
To Blake Montgomery, London Knights. What a season for them. The crown jewel of the Ontario Hockey League. A development masterclass. And to go out and get Blake Montgomery, one of the first players to change course from the USHL and come to the CHL once the new agreement was put in place. Blake Montgomery, I'm sure, looks back on that decision fondly now that he's a Memorial Cup champion. Not only in the Ontario Hockey League, but a Memorial Cup champ.
Yeah, I mean, what a year for Blake Montgomery as we've been following along. He finishes his season with the London Knights, 51 games, 50 points in the playoffs, 10 points and 17 points. And then in the Mem Cup, he had 2 points, 1 goal, 1 assist, helping.
Big goal, too. It was a go-ahead goal in the semifinals.
Yeah, it was a huge one up against the Moncton Wildcats, and the London Knights, they get a 4-1 win over the Medicine Hat Tigers to secure the Mem Cup. And I mean, that London Knights team was just stacked. So Medicine Hat, great team as well, obviously, and they deserve a lot of credit, but I don't think anyone was beating the London Knights. So that's about what we expected.
And I love this clip that came out from Blake Montgomery. Not only the one after the Mem Cup where he's dropping a couple F-bombs here and there, just a very excited individual. But earlier on during the Mem Cup, he talked about how the role doesn't matter to him. It's about winning. Because when all of London's top players went to the World Juniors, that's where Blake showed that he can be an offensive contributor to this team. But once they all came back, everyone slots into the spot where Dale Hunter, head coach, feels like they will be the best version of themselves. And Blake completely took that role on. And I think that just shows an adaptability and versatility that's going to shine through at the next level, which for him will be in the NCAA. Blake is heading to the University of Wisconsin next season. As of now, with the whole way the world is, and we see all these commitments, decommitments, but as of now, and he sounded pretty excited when he was on our show during the season of going to Wisconsin. So that seems like it's the natural next step for Blake Montgomery, who we should note was drafted as a +1 overager last season when Ottawa took him. So he's actually 20 years old now. So maybe a step ahead in terms of the development curve than a Luke Ellenis or a Javon Moore, who were drafted right around where Blake Montgomery was in Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, that 4th round, just what a masterclass by the Ottawa Senators scouting staff. And
yeah, it's looking good.
If you're Blake Montgomery, tidy piece of business. Go over to the CHL for 1 year, win the OHL Cup, win the Mem Cup, and hop on out of there. And now he's going for a Hobie Baker and NCAA championship.
Yeah, and now he's going to take another step forward. Look forward to seeing him actually at Dev Camp in Ottawa this summer, because he's going to have that extra. He's already got aura, but he's going to have that extra aura of being a Memorial Cup champion. So congratulations to Blake Montgomery and the London Knights. Ottawa only had one prospect in the tournament, and he's a champion. All right, Pillsy, on the other side, our NHL draft rankings, updated final list from Scott Wheeler. Tomorrow, we're going to get the Elite Prospects Draft Guide. Very exciting times for all you draft nerds out there. And yes, I'm including myself. Yes, I'm including Pillsy. And we've got, I can't believe this is our first Canadian skater. We had Jack Ivankovic, who is a goaltender. But I mean, we're already like 14 profiles in. Where the heck are all the Canadians?
The cream rises to the top, Ross. I have a feeling we're going to get to some Canadians as we go along here.
All right, we better. Well, for now, let's get to our draft rankings after this. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day. All right, welcome back. Locked On Senators, your team every day. Shout out to the everydayers who make us your first listen Monday through Friday. We will continue to bring you the latest on all things Senators offseason. We'll chime in on the Stanley Cup Finals as things get going on Wednesday. And of course, all roads, well, they led to Buffalo this week, and they're leading to Los Angeles, where the NHL Draft will take place on June 27th and 28th, followed by the Canada Day Special. Free agency opens on July 1st. It is a Tuesday this year. But Pilsy, we've posted now 13 of our draft profiles, and I feel like every single show I get a little bit more excited about the next one because we're sneaking into that territory where one of these guys is likely going to be an Ottawa Senator.
Yep, we're definitely getting close to that 21 range. And Ross, I'm excited to creep into the first round here to get some more talent. Nothing against these guys we've covered, but a lot of 3 stars for me here. I'm ready to bump things up to 3.5, 4, maybe even sprinkle in some 5 stars coming up soon here.
Yeah, people want the 5 stars. They want them.
I don't just give them out though. Like this isn't. I'm not sitting here being like, what would be most entertaining? How about I go a 2-star, a 3-star, 3 more 3 stars, and then I'll hit them with the 5-star. That's not how this teacher grades things, Ross. I'm a hard grader. I'm looking at the facts, the stats, and of course the vibes that players give off for my stars.
Coming in on today's Locked On Senators NHL Draft Rankings at number 36, we're going to the dub from the Kamloops Blazers. It's winger Nathan Behm.
Yep, Nathan Behm, a bright spot in a tough year for the Kamloops Blazers, who, if you know anything about junior hockey, the junior hockey the way they operate is in cycles. Do you think you have a chance at going for the Mem Cup, or are you hosting Mem Cup? Go all in, mortgage the future, don't have a draft pick for the next 10 years. Go for it, and then you're bad for a couple of years. Well, the Kamloops Blazers did just that, but Nathan Behm is a bright spot, like I mentioned, in 59 games, 31 goals, 35 assists, 66 points in 59 games. Finished to -12, and obviously the Blazers did not make the playoffs, so that was the end of his season, but when you finish above a point per game on a bad team, Ross, you had your man, in my opinion.
Yes, to an extent. Now, he just had such a roller coaster of a year, and I can appreciate the fact that he wasn't on a good team, but I would have liked to seen the excelling happen gradually, and building throughout the year would have given me a little bit more confidence. It felt like because he came out with his stick on fire, and then it kind of dropped off and tapered off as things get tighter down the stretch. To me, that's a little bit of a worry. Now, this guy's got pedigree. He's a first-round pick into the WHL, 13th overall in the 2022 draft. So it's not like he doesn't already have the history of being a great player wherever he plays, but it's just you'd like to see a little bit more. I would also have loved to see him play on that Kamloops Blazers team in 2022, the year he got drafted, where they had Olin Zellweger. They had a lot of talented players, and you got more to work with at that point. Nathan Behm finished second on his team in scoring with 66 points in 59 games. He was a -23, but did score 31 goals. He stands 6'2", 192 pounds. He turned 18 in April. He's a right shot, right wing, and comes in with an average rank of 39.8. Highest on Elite Prospects list that had him at 32. McKean's at 34. Craig Button at 44. Bob McKenzie at 40. And Scott Wheeler at 49. Pilsy, if you're an NHL team looking at Nathan Behm, what conversations would you be having about why you should draft this player?
Well, let's talk about the point streakiness, Ross, because that's a big part of his story. He had 10 points in his first 6 games. He was on pace to hit 115 points at one point this season, but he really slowed down in the middle of the season. But I think it's a little bit exaggerated just because of how hot his start was. Like looking through his game logs and just kind of scanning quickly, looking for double zeros, goals, and assists. There's really only one period in late November through mid-December, which I get is quite a bit of a stretch. But if you were to take out those, I don't know, 10, 11 games, the rest of the year at the start and at the end, he was fairly consistent. But when you have a dry spell that lasts that long, it's really going to deflate your balloon, so to speak. So the consistency certainly is an issue. But talking about why you would want to draft this guy, still finished 7 points above a point per game. So still good, dual threat shooter and passer. And he's one of those guys that you can see when the puck gets on his stick, he gets a bit of a boost. He picks things up a notch. He puts it into another gear. He can pull off some nice moves too. He was a big part of Kamloops Blazers power play, which despite having a bad year, they finished their power play at a 25% success rate. So they're able to put up points, maybe just not able to do it even strength or keep pucks out of the back of their own net. And he did double his points from last season, more than double. He only had 31 points last season, and that was in more games, in 9 more games he played last year. He scored 31 goals this year. He had 31 points last year. So there is offensive talent here, and I think he's a good player. I would be interested to see what he could do if Kamloops improves, which I'm sure they're looking to do, or if he ends up being a trade chip that they're going to try to recoup assets and get going in the draft again here. I'm not sure what kind of their plan is as far as where they are in their cycle.
Yeah, I always feel for players that come into those types of situations where the team has pushed all their chips in the year before.
Yeah.
Because this is second full season in the WHL, and he's a minus 56 in those 2 seasons. Like that's got to weigh on you mentally. And I just wanted to go back to you saying that he picks up speed when he gets the puck on his stick. That's great when you have the puck, but I'd like to see that same effort and compete when you don't have it, when you're back checking, when you're covering the point and getting out and pressuring, because I don't know if this skill set, it could be, but I don't know if this skill set is going to scream top 6 NHLer. I would say it's far from guaranteed that. Like guys, when we get into the mid-teens and higher, you know that they're likely going to play a top 6 role at the NHL level. If Nathan Behm is going to find different paths to the NHL, he's going to have to be as good away from the puck as he is when he has it on his stick. If he's going to, let's say, start on a 3rd or a 4th line, he's going to have to find a role. All these guys can score in junior when you get to the best of the best. So I'm looking, if I'm a team that's spending a top half of the 2nd round pick or a late 1st on him, I want assurances that the likelihood he plays in the NHL can rise even higher. I'm not going so far as saying boom or bust, but I do think that he's going to have to be in the right situation as it stands now if he's going to play the right role in the NHL.
Yeah, and that's fair. And that's essentially what Wheeler gets at. Wheeler says he doesn't scream top 6 and mentions that his work off puck play defensively and his competitiveness and physicality needs some work. But Ross, my rebuttal to that would be, look, he's got the size, 6'2", 192 pounds. And sorry, I lost my place here. Oh, yes. And you got to consider the fact that Nathan Behm played on a bad Kamloops Blazer team. Look, I know it doesn't sound good and it's not what you want to hear, but when you're on a bad team, Ross, it's a little bit hard to buy in defensively when you're like, well, we're getting shelled here 5-1. Like, I'm just going to try to get my cookies on the power play, or trying to make a comeback in game 42 of a year where we're already dead last and already statistically going to not make the playoffs. I'm probably not going to push on that back check and try to block that shot down a couple goals here. So again, that's not what you want to hear. You want to hear a kid being like, oh, no matter what the score is, he's putting it on the line, et cetera, which is easy to say sitting here in our basement podcast studios, Ross. But when you're out there and you're grinding and you're losing night after night, it can be tough to turn that switch on mentally and physically to play the extra defense. So that's why I kind of mentioned I feel like it would be good to see him in either an improved Blazers team or on a team that's at the very least a middle team contending for a playoff spot. So I do take that into consideration when I look at Nathan Behm.
Yeah, and there's a world here where you'd like to see the consistency go up, but you also understand when you're getting shelled. I'm looking at the game logs right now, and I didn't quite get to the total number. Let's say it's around 22 games where he didn't have any points this season, and his team won 3 of those games and only 2 in regulation.
Yeah. But Ross, if we're going to look at the games where he's no points, while you're scrolling through that game log, tell me how many times you see him with multi-point games as well, right? Like he's getting 2 goals a bunch of times, a goal and an assist. Like, so that's where the consistency thing, yeah, it's definitely something worth mentioning. But when he's hot, he's hot. When he's cold, he's cold.
3-20-1. Whereas the Kamloops Blazers record where Nathan Behm did not have a point, but there were also a number of games where he has 3 or more points. He had a game in December against Victoria where he had 6 points, 3 goals, 3 assists. So the skill is definitely there for Nathan Behm. I want to get that abundantly clear.
Yep.
But I just think this would be the highest of the range that I would be considering him. To me, he screams more like 40 to 45 overall.
Yep, that's fair. I think he's got good offensive talent. I can see him being a middle 6 player, Ross. I don't think he's going to be a team's crown jewel top prospect, right? Like if you're a team that's really trying to stock the cupboard or take a home run swing, I don't think you're going to take a Nathan Behm just because it's kind of tough to project where his floor and where his ceiling is. But I've got him at 3.5 stars because I see the skill. I give him some slack being on a bad team, and he's a winger with size that can score goals. But for me, I don't think this is a guy the Sens should target. I don't think he's going to be in their range, and I think they need someone with a little bit more oomph skill-wise to make it worth their selection at 21.
Nathan Behm comes in at number 36 on the Locked On Senators NHL Draft Rankings with an average rank of 39.8. All right, coming in at number 35 on the Locked On Senators 2025 NHL Draft Rankings, we're heading to the USHL, where we find Adam Benack, who is standing 5'7". You got to get that out of the way. But his elite hockey IQ, vision, and playmaking have him still, despite the fact that he's a centerman at 5'7", still as an early second-round pick.
Yeah, I mean, overlook, no pun intended, overlook Benak at your expense, Ross, because this guy is an elite playmaker with legitimate top-tier vision. With the Youngstown Phantoms in the USHL, 56 games, 17 goals, 42 assists, 59 points, above a point per game, 36 PIMs, +1. And then in the playoffs, 3 assists in 3 games. He even popped off with Czechia in the U18, where he was an assistant captain. In 4 games, he had 7 points, 5 assists. I love the way this guy is able to set guys up, Ross. Like, go watch highlights of Adam Benak, and you see him threading passes through traffic, through multiple lanes, sticks, skates, everything. He's getting it through. And not only is it getting through, Ross, right on the tape, and that player can one time or get a quick release. Like, he is the king of, after a guy scores a goal, the point. You know that play, Ross, when a guy scores a goal and immediately the first thing he does is point at the guy that gave him the pass? I don't know how many times I saw that with Benak's highlight reels, a lot of assists in those reels. And he has the patience to scan for open players and read developing plays. He's like, okay, that guy's there. That means this guy's going to be here. So I should set it up there, and then I'm going to move here. Like, you can really see the gears are turning. And then for him to be able to successfully do all that, you got to be a good skater. He's a smooth, shifty skater. And when you're 5'7", you're growing up knowing that, hey, if I don't learn how to be evasive and dip, dodge, duck, dive, and dodge, I'm not going to be able to get out of the way of big hits from bigger players. And Benak's, he's one of those little players that has figured out how to do that.
Well, what a breakdown. How am I supposed to follow that one up? I guess I'll tell you more about what I watched, which was a lot of what Pillsy said about the highlight reel and just guys being in awe of the passes he was making. To me, this was the most fun highlight reel I've watched so far. Like, this was amazing to see just the determination and ability to thread the needle more so than anybody else that we've covered up to this point. And obviously we're doing it countdown style, so it makes sense for the highest ranked player to be the most talented. But in this case, it really does ring true. And I will say this for the last time. He's 5'7". So will he be a centerman at the next level? It's a very fair question. I think that at 164 pounds, no matter how much, if any, he grows in height, he will not be playing in the NHL at 164. You got to think that he'll be hopefully closer to 190, 200. I think in a perfect world, he's a winger who can play a playmaking style. He's born in April, so he just turned 18 years old. He's a left shot, and he is very consistently ranked. And that's where I think it even speaks more so to the fact that everyone kind of understands that there's too much talent to overlook on this guy. 35th at McKean's Hockey, 37th for Scott Wheeler, 39th for Bob McKenzie, and 45th for Craig Button. Now, Corey Pronman doesn't rank him. Locked On NHL Prospects, we only have a top 32 for them right now, so unranked. And then it's an honorable mention from Elite Prospects, and that's the top 80. So they are the one outlier here that doesn't think that Benak can get it done.
Which is surprising, Ross, because I found he was a great skater, but I didn't have the protractor out EP when they're doing skating. They're something that I'm not fully aware of, but they're talking about angles that his leg bends on his strides and things like that, where I'm just like, ooh, him fast, good. So that's about all I can really tell you. But Benak is just so interesting. This feels a bit of a stereotype, Ross, but I would like to go ahead and announce, I've been pretty good on my predictions lately. I would like to go ahead and announce, Adam Benak, you are a member of the Carolina Hurricanes.
And it's going to be, they're going to trade down with their late first round pick, get more assets, and then get Benak, and they'll probably say that they would have taken him in the first round.
And Ross, let's add to this thread, this story, playing on a line with Logan Stankoven in the next 4 years.
Come on. No, you can't do that.
I mean, man, that would be sweet. 2 5'7" players just
and Seth Jarvis 5'9" on the other side.
Yeah. Let's set that up. And they're doing like Globetrotter stuff, like sliding through guys' legs and things like that. Oh, it'd be great.
Man, so much talent. Yeah, I could see the Carolina Hurricanes being a spot for him. Don't draft him if you need a crown jewel, but I think he could easily be a second or third best prospect in multiple pools here right after the draft. I do believe in the skill. And I think that the transition for him, one thing we didn't even mention is that this was his first year in North America. So you're getting used to the off-ice living and just getting used to the new system. Youngstown has pumped out a number of National Hockey League talented players over the course of the last a decade or so. And their assistant general manager, it's worth noting, is Czech. So there's a bit of at least a familiarity there. And Benak comes in and leads that team in scoring this season, 6 points more than the next player there. So I think that he's going to be fascinating to see at the combine. I'm sure with those size measurements, the weight training and that sort of thing will go a long way with having how teams place him on their board. But for us on our big board, Adam Benak comes in at number 35. Pillsy, your Sens stars.
I gave him 3 stars, Ross. This is not the guy the Sens should be taking a swing on, but I don't want people to get it twisted. This kid is sick. Like, I think he has some major potential. If I assume he's going to grow another inch or two at least. I mean, that still only brings him to 5'8", 5'9". But all of the coaching staff, guys that play with him, general managers that have worked with him, whether with Czechia or Youngstown, like you mentioned, they all talk about how, hey, we get it. he's 5'7", he's small. We get it, but he works hard. He's fearless for how small he is. He's able to evade all these big hits. So that's the type of blueprint for those Martin St. Louis type guys that end up being like, hey, you think I'm small? Great, chip on my shoulder. I'll prove you wrong. So I'm rooting for Adam Benak, and can't wait to see him get swept with the Carolina Hurricanes in 4 years in the Eastern Conference Finals.
You mentioned Logan Stankoven. I think that's a great player comparable for Adam Benak, who, as I mentioned, comes in at number 35 on our Locked On Senators NHL Draft Rankings with an average rank of 39. Pillsy, I know I took your final thoughts, the Blake Montgomery conversation, so I'll throw you a final thought.
Oh, thank God. Sending me a life raft here.
Claude Giroux received 1 vote for the Selke. Selke finalists have been announced.
Okay.
Claude Giroux is the only Senator to get a vote. However, it was a second place vote. Your thoughts?
I don't know. That's weird. And just correction, Ross, the Selke Trophy was awarded, not the finals.
There you go. Yeah, the finalists. Right. I knew it was 2 guys from Florida and Tampa. So I guess the award show is going by the wayside. I guess if not everybody's in Vegas for the draft anyways, maybe it's just kind of like, let's just get most of them out of the way.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know about you, Ross, but I've never watched the NHL award show. I think they're kind of figuring out the attention spans of everybody these days are not long enough to sit through an award show. Right. So I like what they're doing. They're doing this new whole, we're going to surprise guys with fun little, I don't want to say gimmicks, but like little videos where they think, like with Barkov, they released the video today. It's kids from the children's hospital coming into the room and they're like, oh, we want to give Barkov a gift. And he's like, oh, okay, what's going on here? And then they roll in. Nice. He also won the King Clancy trophy, Ross. So they roll in the King Clancy and he's like, oh, nice. This is awesome. And then they're like, oh, wait, don't we have more kids coming with another gift? And he's like, what's going on here? And then they roll in with the Selke. So Barkov's got the Clancy and the Selke right there from the kids at the children's hospital. So I think it's a fun new idea from the NHL, and I think it's a little bit better than a dry, tired award show.
Yeah, I agree with that. So was it a reporter from Ottawa or Philadelphia that gave Giroux a second place Selke vote?
Why not Florida?
Yeah. I think they were a little busy voting for the guys. The Panthers finished 1 and 2.
Seriously.
In this, with Sam Reinhart, the runner-up, and Anthony Cirelli in 3rd place. But I think Claude Giroux had a great year. Defensively,
I mean, still put up over 50 points.
50 on the dot. We don't call that over. We're negotiating right now, dude.
Yes. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. He had 50 points on the dot, but he did lead the league in face-off percentage and was a big part of the Sens penalty kill throughout the season. But I think to a man, we can look at this and say he wasn't the second best defensive forward in the National Hockey League. No.
Fair. Yes, fair.
All right, Pillsy. Another great show today. It was great to get some actual news, eh?
Oh, so nice. Thank you, Steve.
Yes, thank you, Steve. We will carry that into tomorrow, where I'm sure it will be another eventful day with the NHL Scouting Combine underway in Buffalo, and the news will begin trickling out on how things went at the beginning. And now, where the rumors all stand. I think the Elliot Friedman one, we touched on it, but that is newsworthy there. That right shot forward could be on the way out to make room for the right shot forward, Claude Giroux. And the Sens are looking at a right shot defenseman as per Elliot Friedman and Locked On Senators offseason checklist that we did at the start of the month. If you missed any episode, you can go check them out wherever you get your podcasts. You can go and watch Pillsy be completely right in his prediction back on May 9th on the Locked On Senators podcast, where we predicted all of the RFA salaries. So go look at what we had for Fabian Zetterlund, who is the big RFA fish left remaining. We also discussed Levi Merilainen. What's next for Steve Staios? Whatever it is, we'll be here every step of the way. Shout out to the everydayers making us your first listen. Please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. If you enjoyed the show, click the thumbs up as well on YouTube. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.